Good morning to you. Yes, I am pretending to not notice that you're watching. How's my acting? Good? I look like a psycho. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining. If you are joining and if you are watching, I'd love it if you had a quick comment just saying hello. Today I've decided to come as a picnic blanket. So we'll be dining on me later, I reckon. You like? You dig? It's new look. Okay, so after reaching out late last night and not actually expecting any kind of response, um, I was thinking about what to do content wise for today's video. Hello, Imogen. Uh, so today I'm going to be again aiming for a very short video so that you can actually carry on with your day instead of listening to me. So we're going to talk about how to implement your brand like a graphic designer. So we're going to be thinking about, I'll check my notes as usual, reducing your choices, which is a good thing because then it focuses on the important aspects, which I'll go into. Logo format flexibility, we'll have a discussion, and giving your logo space to breathe. And I said and like it was the last one, but now it's and logo rules and so many ands. And talking about no distorting of the logo whatsoever. So it's a bit of a bugbear for me. So I'll try not to rant. I know Imogen has just rubbed it in my face how it's never going to be a short video. Today is the day. Right, I'm going to aim for 15 minutes. Let's do this. All right, so again, if you've only just joined, hello. Drop a little hello in the comment box so I know you're watching. I actually hate asking that every week because then I feel like it's going to be tumbleweed and crickets. But if you are watching the Facebook Live, put a little hello. If you're watching this on YouTube on repeat, then drop a little hello in, or like a like button or whatever the heck you have to do on YouTube. Just let me know that you're there. That'd be great. All right, so let's talk about. We've kind of gone through our brand audit in a certain amount of respects. We've hopefully put out all of our printed literature that we have, and what we were looking for is to see, does it look like it's one brand? Does it look like it's part of a family? Not every piece of literature has to be designed exactly the same way so that it looks monotonous. That's not what we're aiming for. What we're looking for is that there are some commonalities there so that if you were cold, you were coming to the room, you didn't know this person, you didn't know the brand, you would be able to identify that every piece of literature on the table was from one business. So we've kind of got to that point. And like I said in the last video, what I'm aiming to do is to hopefully build this all into a course. So when I go waffling on, it's me basically vamping. No, it sounds trashy. Anywho, it's me waffling, but what I want to do is build all of this into some sort of an online workshop or something, and then I can actually proper waffle on for longer than an hour or whatever I talk for. So we've kind of got to that point, and now what we want to do is we've got what's in front of us. How do we fix it if it's wrong? If we've updated our brand, how do we implement it? And what I'm going to do is basically talk to you from a graphic designer's point of view and the decisions that we make when implementing your brand for you. So hopefully you can pick up a few tips, and if you're doing stuff yourself, like on Canva or any free resources or even on a Word document, that at least you know some bare basic rules so that you're designing the page with purpose, if that makes any sense. Don't ever feel, especially if you work with me, don't ever feel like you have to do this alone. If you need some advice, or even if you just want me to check out on something, check some, whatever the proper English is for that, send me something and just say, oh, how is this looking? Can I have some feedback? And I would love to, because I'm a proper control freak. So even if you don't use me, and if I have the time, because I'm like snowed at the moment, then send me something, and I would love to say, actually, we'd be better positioned here. These are the reasons why, blah, 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 blah. And then just teach you a little bit about how to take ownership of your own brand and to keep it looking strong every time it appears on something. So one of those, looking at my notes, excuse me, I'm not just daydreaming. One of the things to help you is to reduce your choices. And that might sound negative, but what you're doing is you're focusing in on the stuff that's important, like I said earlier on. So you've got your logo, you might have some sort of a strap line, so a logo and a strap line or a tagline. The tagline can be dropped if it's hopefully a good designer will design it in such a way that they're two separate elements that you can drop if necessary, if there's not enough space for the tagline, introduce where you can, etc. And then what you want to do is, what are your brand colors? So you should, in an ideal world, you should choose one really strong color, that this is your brand color. Maybe up to 3. That's a bit of a push. So maybe 1 or 2 primary brand colors, your color palette, and then what you can then decide is some complementary colors as your secondary color palette. So I've probably thrown like a whole lot of jargon at you, but let's simplify it right down and let's go for one color. So for mine, I don't even know if I have one. I'm like telling you all the rules, but it's not, I don't follow them. I'm trying to think of a brand we could use as an example. So let's go, which one do I know well enough? Coleman's? No, that's a rubbish one. All right, let me just use mine as an example. So my, I would say my main color is going to be a pink. It used to be like a turquoise, like a darkish teal color, but now I'm evolving. I need to say absolving. I'm evolving my brand to speak directly to my client base and the people I want to work with, which is women, so female small business owners. So my main color is a version of pink, more like a corally pink. And then my secondary colors are going to be like a gold, a blue, and some other tints of pink. So my main color is a pink, a coral pink, like not a dark coral, but it's almost, yeah, coral pink. And then my secondaries are going to be the yellow, pinkier pinks, and a blue. So what this does is it makes me notice, okay, where possible, I need to use as much of my primary color any way I can, without saturating the design. I don't know if I'm making any sense. So if you're thinking on your web page, so for example, if you look at my logo on mysteryhair.com, you'll see my logo in the top, and then where possible I've tried to use as much of the coral pink, and then I've thrown in a lot of the gold, a lot of the mustard yellow, and that's to pick up the luxury side of things, so to kind of pick out the quality side of my business. So anyway, I've waffled. Let me go back to what I'm saying. So reduce your choices. So you have your main color palette, and this is what you refer to as much as possible. Thanks, Angie. Yes, absolving. That's I know English good. I learned it from a book. So you got your primary color palette and your secondary color palette. Now your secondary color palette is for things like introducing sub-brands or subcategories, but what it can also do is to define pieces of information. So really, I look at graphic design as, I used to be an avid reader. Now I don't really have the time or the want to do it anymore. And the way that I think of is I'm my own worst customer. So if I make something clear and enjoyable enough that I want to read it, then I feel like I've done a good job, because like I say, I'm a lazy reader now. I used to be great, and now I'm not so much. So it's about using your color and your typefaces in such a way that subliminally, which is not really the right word because it sounds almost like a sort of hypnosis thing, but what you're doing is you're you're giving definition, you're defining bits of information, and you're setting rules, especially for big documents. You're setting up rules that this is what this section looks like. Maybe each chapter. So I've done a booklet for a customer of mine, so it's like training booklets, and each category within the book, because it's only maybe about between 7 and 13 categories, I've given those a different color because he's got quite a large color palette, but those color palettes I use to define a section. So if you think about it, if somebody wants to flick through, it's about creating freedom and navigation and easier to read. If you're flicking through as a reader and you want to get to a certain category, the colors will then match with the contents, and instead of having to read the contents, the page number, find the page number, you can just flick through and find the color that correlate, not tabulate, that correlate with the contents. So it's about setting up these rules, helping your customers to read your information and to absorb it, so that they can hear you and you're talking to them in the easiest way possible. So by reducing your choices, your color palette, your main branding font, you're setting out these rules and you're making the work easier for your customers to learn about you. So let me then quickly refer to font. So color, let me just recap. Try and stick to one main color for your color palette, your one brand color, and this is your strong brand that features really strongly in your logo most likely, and then use it for the most important bits of information. So you can use it to highlight headings, or maybe have it in your web banners, or even if you have a heading with like a colored background and your text is white, then maybe have that. But make sure it's the most important stuff, because you don't want to water down the strength of your logo by using your primary color like way too much, because then it weakens the message of your logo. I say message, but I'm art speaking now. And then your secondary color palette are going to be complementary colors, as in, you know, your art lesson days. They've got to complement your main color, because they're basically pushing the attention onto the main color. That's your focus. By focusing on one thing and making one thing really strong, that's what really helps to strengthen your brand, and you start gaining brand recognition. So your secondary color palette is going to be supporting your main color palette. So I'll put that to one side because I think that needs like a whole massive long lesson. Then your font choices. So if you have a typography based logo, or even if you have something like mine where I've got an icon and then I've got mystery hair and text, the font that you choose is conveying, just like a color does, it conveys an impression. It makes people have a perception of your business that you're hoping to control to some aspect, or to kind of give them a taster into what the business is like and what you're like. So when they come to interact with you and to engage with you, it's not like a big shock. You're not completely different to your brand. So hopefully in my brand, what I'm trying to do is create a sense of neatness, because I think it's, you know, it's not just a Monica from Friends thing. It actually is really important to be neat when you're laying out some information. Also, hopefully conveying a sense of fun. So if you look to my logo, it's the M just goes round. There's no stick or anything. I think now that I say that, I can't even. I'm pretty sure it just go anywhere. There's a lot of curves, a lot of round shapes, and straight edges. So it's the font is a throwback almost to Art Deco era. So you'll probably pick that up now when you see it. And it's just a little bit of frivolity, but it's also very neat, which hopefully shows, I'd say my professional side, but it's more like my thoroughness. I realize I'm very thorough. I'm not super professional, but in the sense of, you think of in 80s days. So yes, font is really important. So Angie just asked me if font's important. So the font for your logo is one thing, and again, like your color palette, you want your font in your logo to be reserved just for your logo. If you have a tagline, it might make sense, depending on the situation, to use the same font for your tagline, so it looks like it is part of the same thing. What you might want to do is choose a font with different weights for your logo and then your tagline, so that it's got a bit of hierarchy to the information. But then try your absolute best not to repeat that font in your branding anywhere else. The idea is, what you want to do is you want to give power to your logo. You want to give your logo all the attention that a logo has. Just think about it as in, you've got this piece of information that's on a page full of words. You want the logo in the user's mind to be important, but not necessarily the focus. So it's like when you learn how to read an email for the first time. You have all of this clutter, but then you soon learn that you don't really have to take in Dear Caroline at the top. You know it's going to be directed to you. You don't really need to look at who it's from at the bottom, because that's in the from box in your email. You don't need to read all the guff that's underneath, in the email signature, because you know that that's information. If you need it, you come back to it later. So it's also about conditioning. So give all of your power and strength to your logo, and then everything else complements your logo. So when you're choosing a brand font, then so for example, so for mine, I've used a sans serif font, which means it's it's without little feet. So Times New Roman, like Times newspaper, it's got those little feet at the bottom and the top of certain letters. A sans serif is almost like a handwriting. You don't have the little flourishes. It's just very basic. It's simple. It's clean. It's not casual, but it is casual. It's not like super stuffy. It's not really professional. It's so there's positives and negatives to whatever you choose, and it has to complement your brand. Dang it, I've gone 1 minute already over my 15-minute promise, and I'm only talking about the first one. All right, this is gonna go on. Right, so basically your brand font is going to be the font that you use for all of your literature. So let's talk about a brochure or flyer as our example. We have our logo, which has our font, and then we choose something. So now I've chosen again a sans serif, and you could swap it out. You could have your logo in a sans serif and the rest of your stuff in a serif. If what you're doing is tipping the scales to trustworthy, reliable, a bit old-fashioned in a good way, and then you kind of weighing that up against the sans serif, which is casual and fun and clean and open and modern and progressive, and you kind of wanting to tip the balance. So that can work too, and they do complement each other because they're different. But what I've done, hey Vanessa, but what I've done is I've stuck with sans serif because of the impressions that it gives, and it matches my style, and it matches the way I work, and it matches my products or my services, and it's also easy to read. So I've chosen a font that has a whole set of weights. Now that means, what am I using? I think I'm using Frutiger or Den. Anyway, they're really similar. So, and then within those fonts, I have bold, regular, bold, semi-bold, medium, regular. I think there's a light and perhaps a thin, and then an ultralight. So basically, it's how thick the letters are. So you know the difference between a bold and an italics, and like a regular font. You can kind of picture in your mind what those look like. And the idea behind that is you set up a bunch of rules to help the person read your flyer. So my flyer is going to be talking about, I don't know, maybe a promotion, a special price that I'm offering to entice new customers into my business. And I want them to get to the information that is pertinent to them, but I don't fully know what's pertinent to them. So what's interesting to one person within this one flyer might be boring to another. So what I want to do is I want to set up a bunch of rules to help them to navigate down to what they're interested in first. And then once they've read that and they like that, then they can kind of have a look at the other stuff. So you're giving a lot of navigation hints, and you're giving people the flexibility to take in the information the way they want to. So I will most likely have a bold font for my heading, and then I will consistently use that size, that color, and that font weight for every single heading if I have a bunch of paragraphs. And then for my body font, I'll probably use either a regular or a light font, depending on how thin the font is. And then for every single paragraph, that is what I'll lay it the same color, the same weight, the same size for every single thing. Apart from making it really neat and tidy, you're also explaining without having to explain the hierarchy of information, so that people can realize, like, oh, okay, do I want to read the paragraph related to this heading? No, I'll skip to the next one. And so you're helping. And then again, the same set of rules are applied to your essential slash non-essential information. So all your contact details, your basically your call to action, but not really your call to action, because a call to action is more straightforward. Just your contact details. That is ordinarily going to be a smaller font. So let's say you lay all your heading is at maybe 14 points. Your body copy, your paragraphs are at 10 points. Then you want your contact details to maybe be reduced down to 9 points. That's pushing it a bit for people that are of my age group. I just flipped you the bird. You know, with these bad boys, we like our font to be slightly bigger so that we can read them, because we're old. We're old and we're basic. And so even within your contact details, even make it easy for people to read that. So you could have, if you have your little titles before the information, like address, you put your address, telephone, you put your telephone, email. So you could put those little headings as a bolder version, and then your regular version. So all it is just, it's not spoon feeding, it's catering to people's freedom of choice, I guess. Right, so and then again, with reducing your choices, it's you need to consider your layout. So choose something as your template. So let's say I started with my flyer, and then I work out the best way to design my flyer. Then what I can do is use that as an inspiration template to build all of my other stuff. So I'm like, okay, this is where the logo is going to be situated. Do I want it top and center? Do I want it at the bottom part of my footer? So it's there, but it's not like in your face. Do I want it to be, you know, more subtle? Then as much as possible, stick to that same layout with everything. If it doesn't work, and if the situation calls for it, then change it up, but keep some sort of a pattern there, because humans, we like patterns. I mean, I think graphic designers more than a lot of people, especially me, because I'm a control freak that likes things just so. Not my house, because I mean it's clean in the background, but the rest of the house is like a pit. But information wise, you want to make it easy. You basically want it to make it as easy as possible for your customer to say yes to the question, do you want to buy from me? And everything is working towards that. The strongest way to do that is to create a relationship where you're not pushing sales, and to respect their freedom of choice by creating documents and customer facing kind of communication. I don't know what that was for. Just making it as easy as possible for them to read, and then they can make their own decision with the facts that they have. Anyway, blah blah blah. So layout. So choose a layout. Even in a program like Canva, what you can do is you can create yourself a whole bunch of templates. So you can create a social media template that have them in pre-ready sizes. So you could do like a little Facebook inspirational quote, and you can think, okay, in every single inspirational quote, I'm going to have my logo fairly small down the bottom, with maybe just my website, because maybe my inspirational quote, maybe what I want people to do with that is to be inspired for their day. But if they're curious, because you want to create curiosity in your readers, if they're curious, what I want them to do next is to go to my website. So it's exhausting being a graphic designer, because you have to think about all this stuff all the time. Thank you. Hair flip. Okay, so we have reduced our choices. We've got our color palette, a primary and a secondary color palette. We have the font that we've chosen for our logo. For the most part, even that will be distorted slightly or changed so that it's bespoke, like a bespoke font, or font that's whatever. I'm rambling. And then we choose our corporate, our brand font. So which is, for me, I think it's DIN. So I've got a font family that has loads of weights, and those weights are going to help a person. Oh, I don't know what's wrong with me today. You know what it is? It's because I'm aware I've gone over 25 minutes. So the I'll very briefly talk about the last things, because what it is logo format flexibility. Basically, if your logo is long, so mine, you'll have a look at it, is quite long. You've got, I don't know what side, this side? No, this side. So you've got your logo, my graphic, my little bunny, my hair, and then I've got mystery hair next to it. So that's, in theory, that's quite a long logo. And in some areas, that's going to be difficult to put effectively, because you've also got to realize that you can't reduce something too small, especially in print, because then it disappears, and it's hard to read when you're of a certain age. So for example, for my font, what I could do is I could actually create flexibility in those elements. So my icon and my type can be two different elements. So on the whole, as much as possible, I'm going to use my logo in this format. Where I can't, I'm going to move potentially my hair to the top and then have my text underneath. So now that starts to create more of a square format if you're looking at putting an invisible kind of rule around it. And that way I've got plenty of room to maneuver. These logos should be set up in advance so that it again reduces your choices. You have this format or this format, and then you and nothing else, because what that does then is like it's taking away your choices, means that you focus in on the important stuff and you can just get it done. Like, you should not have to think for 5 hours about what do I do with this logo, where do I put it. So that's logo format flexibility. I'm going to rush past that one. Give your logo space to breathe, for flip's sakes. It's an important piece of your brand asset. It's a brand asset. It's important to your business. It's important to repeat it so that you can start to create a brand reputation and recognition. So give it a bit of space. Make like a rule in your head that so let's use mine as an example again. So if I take maybe the E of mystery hair, and I would take the size of that letter and I would plonk it all the way around the outside of my invisible kind of line or box for my logo. Then I don't know, I hope you're following along. So I've basically created outside of the size of my logo, the size of the E all the way around, and that's my invisible barrier. Nothing, no information should be coming closer than that. That's my kind of my border. No, don't come any closer to that. Then what you're doing is no information is encroaching and squishing your logo, which means that it's not overwhelming for a customer to kind of take that information in. So always give your logo space to breathe. It's an important piece of information. You might not realize it. You might think that the words that you're saying is important, but it's very, very important for creating your reputation and to start getting your brand remembered. Yes, so creating a memorable brand. And then the last very quick one. So that's kind of you're starting to give your logo positioning and layout rules now. The biggest rule is do not distort your logo, for the flippity flip sakes. I'm very good with not swearing today, but please never, ever, ever, ever stretch your logo. What it does is it cheapens your logo. It basically gives people the impression that, oh, okay, they've sent this logo or this little advert to a magazine, they haven't sized it properly, so the magazine public editor has just stretched it into the shape that they have, and it cheapens it, but it makes it hard to read. It makes people that are looking at it uncomfortable because it's stretched out of proportion. If they've seen your logo before, they will notice that there's something wrong with it. If they see the logo after in its proper format, they'll realize that, you know, it's almost like you're feeling a bit seasick because the visual has been distorted and it just doesn't make any sense, and it makes you question. If you're giving people enough time to question and be confused by anything, you've lost their attention. So don't do it. It's so easy. Never ever stretch your logo out. If something is the wrong size, then you ask the editor, what is the size of the space I have? And then you make sure that what you send them is the size, but you keep the logo pure. So if you're sizing up or sizing down, you constrain your proportions. So if you have a picture box, I think it's shift or command shift to basically pull the box up so that the picture goes with it. I don't know if that, I'm trying to think of all the different programs. So you can make your logo bigger and smaller, but you don't stretch it out of shape, because there's just so many reasons why. It's just don't do it. All right, I'm going to stop now because my 15-minute video, thanks Imogen, you were right, has gone on for 31 minutes. So I'm not getting better at this, I'm getting worse. But what I want to do, like I said in the beginning, is all of this stuff is really helping me to create an online course that I really want to create, where it will obviously go into way more detail because I can't help myself, and I hope that any of this stuff is helpful. If you're confused by any of it, please do email me. If you want me to use these theories that I'm talking about in critiquing your website or a piece of literature you made, send it to me, because I really do believe in the power of branding, and it's because I know all this background nonsense where it's not controlling how somebody reads it, it's helping them to read it, and it's helping your customers to take in the most important information to you, and my dream is to help you to achieve your dreams. And I want small businesses to succeed, because we might not feel like it, but we're the monopoly at the moment. I think that's the right way to say it. You know, small businesses are what's, I think, helping us to not fall into a full-on recession. I mean, I know it's coming and I know it's going to happen, but I think small businesses are going to come out of this COVID period better than we did before, because we're so agile and we're able to pivot so quickly. So this branding stuff is important to help you to do that, because it's one less thing that you have to think about, and it allows you to have that flexibility to pivot and to change in different areas without then having also to worry about, how do I design this flyer, which is important stuff to me, but it shouldn't have to be important to you. So thank you again for joining me. I'm sorry that, again, you know, I'm just going to say every week, I'm just not going to say that it's going to be a quick one, because it never is, and I'm just making myself a liar. So thank you for enjoying me. Thank you for joining me. And I'll see you again next week. Thanks all. Bye.